Time magazine and has been featured all over the world. It's whisper quiet while it works your abs and core, hip flexors, glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves.
QB is a lifesaver for me.
Here's your answer to your problem.
I feel young again.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people moving more with QB. Call to find out how to get your QB with free shipping and a 30-day completely risk-free trial. You'll also get this QB workout mat free. Now keep fit while you sit with QB.
To order, call 800-289-5820. That's 800-289-5820. Call now.
Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. In the next hour, a possible new roadblock from Democrats for Biden's big infrastructure plan, the latest on embattled Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, vaccine passports, and much more. But we're going to begin tonight in Minneapolis with the Derek Chauvin, George Floyd murder trial.
Sir, do you have an opinion to a degree of reasonable professional certainty to how much force was reasonable for the defendant to use on Mr. Floyd after Mr. Floyd was handcuffed, placed in the prone position, and not resisting?
My opinion was that no force should have been used once he was in that position.
That was LAPD Sergeant acting as a prosecution expert on police use of force in the Chauvin murder trial. Now, speaking to what seems to be the essential question right now in this case, was Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck an acceptable use of police force to restrain a suspect that, as mentioned, was handcuffed, or was it murder or manslaughter? In this Minneapolis courtroom today, the main line of questioning focused on police use of force. Prosecutors calling Los Angeles Police Department Sergeant Jody Steiger back to the stand. An expert on the topic testifying former officer Derek Chauvin's actions were deadly and that George Floyd did not appear to be a threat once handcuffed on the ground.
He was in the prone position, he was handcuffed, he was not attempting to resist, he was not attempting to assault the officers, kick, punch, or anything of that nature.
The defense questioning Steiger's expertise, arguing Chauvin could have used even more tactics to subdue Floyd under Minneapolis Police Department policy.
Officer Chauvin, theoretically, based on what he saw, active resistance, he could have come up and dry stunned him or tased him. That would be within the active resistance, struggling use of force continuum.
Yes.
Defense attorney Eric Nelson claiming the crowd distracted officers from giving Floyd medical aid. But Steiger disagreed, saying Chauvin was aware of Floyd's state and should have stopped restraining him.
Because in the body-worn video, you can hear Mr. Floyd displaying his discomfort and pain, and you can also hear the defendant responding to him.
The Floyd family attorney, Benjamin Crump, speaking out today on The View.
It shouldn't be riveting when we see this. It should be expected that police chiefs and police will tell the truth. And so I pray that we now have a precedent that police officers all over America will step out in front of the blue wall of silence.
Today's testimony continues a prosecution theme, putting people in various positions of authority in the Minneapolis Police Department on the stand. That, as they tell the jury, what Chauvin did was not, quote unquote, by the book and not department procedure. Now, we heard that yesterday from the police chief who later terminated Chauvin.
It has to be objectively reasonable. We have to take into account the circumstances, information, the threat to the officer, the threat to others, the severity of that. So that is not part of our policy. That is not what we teach, and that should be condoned.
When do you believe, or do you have a belief as to when this restraint, the restraint on the ground that you viewed, should have stopped?
Once Mr. Floyd had stopped resisting, and certainly once he was in distress and trying to verbalize that, that should have stopped.
And earlier, prosecutors, they asked the longest tenured member of the Minneapolis Police Department, as well as head of its homicide unit, for his take on what Chauvin did.
What is your view of that use of force during that time period?
Totally unnecessary. Pulling him down to the ground, face down, and putting your knee on the neck for that amount of time is just uncalled for. I saw no reason why the officers felt they were in danger, if that's what they felt. And that's what they would have to feel to be able to use that kind of force.
Let's discuss this now with a man who knows the justice system in Minnesota as well as anyone, Tom Heffelfinger. He's an attorney in private practice in Minnesota. He's also former assistant Hennepin County attorney, that's Minneapolis. He's also former U.S. attorney for the District of Minnesota. Tom, initial impressions to this point, given both the testimony and the video we've seen time and time again, what kind of an impact do you think so far on the jury?
The videos, and there are multiple of them, have been extraordinarily compelling. The totality of the evidence that the prosecution has put together has been also compelling. So you combine the video with live testimony, and I think of that in two categories to this point. The bystanders who were witnessed this on the corner of 38th and Chicago, and the police testimony was also compelling, because it's not normal to see a series of officers from your direct supervisor to the chief of police testify that your behavior was inappropriate.
And speak to that, Tom, because to see senior officials, from the chief to people with long careers, uniformly, and I know this is just the prosecution portion of the trial to this point, but say that's not what we teach, that's not acceptable behavior, he didn't do it the right way, he didn't follow the book. You know, you're far closer to this than me, but that doesn't seem common in these kinds of cases.
It's not common. Not only is it not common in Minnesota, it's not common generally when you have prosecutions of police officers. Most police violence cases involve the use of a firearm and a instantaneous decision that a police officer has to make. This violence involved physical violence, use of body weight, knee to the neck, which lasted for 9 minutes or more. So there's what makes it different is that this police officer had a lot of time to deliberate on his actions.
I imagine, Tom, you still have friends, you know, in the legal system in Minnesota. I'm curious. Every law enforcement person I've talked to on and off camera, I'm surprised, and unlike other controversial cases, and as you mentioned, usually where gunfire is involved and a split-second decision is involved, that unlike those, in this case, they said, I can't for the life of me understand why he kept doing what he did for 9.5 minutes. Are you hearing that also in the legal community as well, to say, this one's not a jump ball?
First of all, I do know all of the people involved in this case. The judge is a good friend, public defender, the prosecutors. One of the prosecutors I hired as an assistant U.S. attorney. And the legal system generally is having the same reaction to this set of facts as the general public has. The original airing of the video caught all of us aghast. And that has not let up as the evidence has come in. If anything, the compelling nature of the evidence has made the videos, I won't say secondary, but they are not the only compelling piece of this case.
Give an idea, pull the curtain back, the pressures, given the stakes of this trial. And obviously it's not, you know, this is not just about Minnesota. This is not just about Mr. Chauvin and Mr. Floyd. In many ways, policing on trial here on a national basis. What kind of pressures are the prosecutors facing right now, given the consequences of a verdict one way or the other?
I would go farther, Richard, and say that all of the participants in this trial are under a huge amount of pressure. It's not only Derek Chauvin that's on trial here and the Minnesota judicial system. It's all of us in our interaction with people of other colors and races. It is definitely a factor that communities of color have historically suffered from interactions with police, suffered badly. And this trial has brought all of those historical relations to the forefront. As you saw after the death on Memorial Day last summer, Minneapolis led the nation, if you will, in the protests following George Floyd's death.
We know, because we've seen, Tom, that the defense is trying to at least create doubt as to what was the overarching factor in the death of George Floyd, and we can expect to see much more of that when they put their case out. And also they'll introduce at least what they can of Floyd's troubled life before that day in Minneapolis. That said, do you think there's a temptation, given how the trial's gone to this point, to put Chauvin on the stand?
I don't know. And that's a great question. I think you'll be able to answer that question yourself, Richard, as you get into the conclusion of the prosecution case, and you start seeing whether or not there is other evidence introduced by the prosecution from which the defense can argue Chauvin's intent, his state of mind, why he was doing this. I call back to a testimony of a bystander named McMillian a few days ago, who was testifying in connection with the body camera that Chauvin was wearing. And during that dialogue between McMillian and Chauvin, you heard Chauvin tell McMillian what he was doing and why. So that's an example of other evidence that can come into the trial, which may make it possible for the defense to lay out their case without putting Chauvin on the stand.
Well, I really appreciate, especially from your perspective on this, I think it's going so far, and also what you believe the stakes of this trial are. Tom, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Up next, the fight for infrastructure. President Biden hitting the road to sell his $2 trillion plan. Republicans, they don't like it. Big business, they don't want to pay for it. And now even some Democrats are saying, we'll fix our tax problem or we'll vote no. I'll speak with one of them, New Jersey Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, next.
Is your AC busted, computer crashed, appliance broken? Then you need ARW, American Residential Warranty.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty. Home appliance repairs and replacement can cause stress and cost you over $3,000 per year. But starting at less than $1 a day, ARW has home warranty plans that cover household appliances, systems, and electronics. Parts and labor included. When I needed ARW, they were there. My oven actually took a dive in the middle of making a big dinner for family and friends, picked up the phone, called ARW, they repaired it, dinner saved, that easy.
My air conditioning broke on a Sunday. It was so hot, I called ARW and they came out and fixed it right away.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, even pools and spas, and so much more. All you have to do is call or go to getahomeplan.com. Plus, ARW's partnered with Assurant to offer protection for all your new and used household electronics for just one low price.
I dropped my laptop and ARW replaced it with a brand new one, and all I paid was a small service fee.
All plans are fully customizable and come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now and get a home security system valued at $1,250 free with any plan. And you can trust ARW to be there when you need it. Just call ARW and a licensed technician will be dispatched to your home. All covered repairs are guaranteed.
My refrigerator broke, and not only did ARW repair it fast, gas. They even sent me a reimbursement check for all the food that went bad.
So come on, relax. Stop worrying about unexpected breakdowns and costly repairs. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
Call 1-800-253-1237. Again, that's 1-800-253-1237 or log on to getahomeplan.com today.
This is important news for people who have taken Zantac or its generic ranitidine and then suffered from cancer. Zantac and generic ranitidine have been linked to cancers such as bladder cancer and kidney cancer. According to the FDA, Zantac and ranitidine contain NDMA, a known cancer-causing agent. NDMA has been linked to cancers of the bladder, kidney, colon, esophagus, liver, ovaries, pancreas, and other cancers. If you or a loved one took Zantac or ranitidine and were then diagnosed with cancer, call the lawyers at Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call the lawyers at Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one took Zantac or generic ranitidine and were then diagnosed with bladder cancer, kidney cancer, or any of these cancers. Call now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Our first consultation is free, and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call Davis & Crump right now. Operators are standing by.
With the Biden stimulus now law and COVID vaccinations hitting record pace, Biden White House, they're now fully focused on its $2 trillion infrastructure proposal. That proposal is, if you go by the polls, pretty popular. It's got majority support from all groups, including even Republicans, for all of these focuses, from highways to medical infrastructure to getting rid of lead pipes to schools, VA hospitals. No polling number here lower than 51%. And yet, President Biden still faces an uphill road to getting this passed. Republicans think they have a line of attack. They're saying despite all it does, the bill really isn't about infrastructure. It's just a multi-trillion-dollar far-left wish list, echoing the GOP's ongoing theme. And there are grumblings in corporate America about the corporate tax hike that Biden says he wants to pay for this. Even good news for the president on infrastructure, it comes with a caveat. Senate parliamentarian just said that Democrats can pass this infrastructure bill through reconciliation, so they only need the 50 votes, the tie breaking going to the vice president. But West Virginia's Joe Manchin, he's holding out again, so Democrats may really struggle to get to that 50-vote mark. They also may not have votes in the House. Now, Florida Democrat Alcee Hastings' recent passing leaves Democrats with only a 7-seat majority under Nancy Pelosi. Late last week, a group of 8 Democrats, 7 of them from New York and New Jersey, wrote to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen saying they will not vote for the Biden infrastructure bill if it doesn't get rid of the SALT limits that cap federal write-offs for state and local tax payments. New York and New Jersey have some of the highest property taxes in the country. Our next guest, one of those members, threatened to block this infrastructure legislation. Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, she's a Democrat, represents New Jersey's 11th district, which covers the north central part of the Garden State. Congresswoman, always appreciate the time. You know, today, Governor Cuomo had his briefing, and he counted SALT getting repealed as part of the new budget for New York. Is that wishful thinking, or are you also confident that at the end of the day, this thing's going to go away?
I feel really good about addressing SALT in the infrastructure bill because, quite frankly, it's not an either or. This is a broad bill that can do both, and we have to do both because we know New Jersey and New York are real economic engines of this country. And if we're going to get past COVID, if we're going to get people back up on their feet, especially from a region of the country that was first and hardest hit, we've got to address infrastructure, and we also have to address this punishing SALT tax cap that has really hurt middle-class families across my region.
If it gets removed from reality on one of those taxpayers who's gotten banged by it, is that the only holdup for you? You and the others who echoed your concerns to Secretary Yellen, you'll be on board then?
Well, you and me both. Just about everyone around here seems to have gotten banged by it a little bit. In fact, with the last year, we have numbers, over half the people in my district took the state and local tax deduction. And so it as I said, it really is an important issue for middle class families. But once we get that in the bill, which I think we will, I think when we look at the rest of the bill, it's a great infrastructure bill that invests in the future of this country. And so to somehow act like it's a Democratic wish list, these are infrastructure projects that we've long been bipartisan across the nation, looking at investments in our crumbling infrastructure, especially around here when we're talking about the Gateway Tunnel project, the nation's most important infrastructure project. But beyond that, we're looking at making our electric power grid more resilient. Believe me, I have Republican mayors up in out in the western part of my district that would very much like to see that because of the problems we've had through the last several storm seasons. We look at things like investing in green power. I was just on with my union, the AFL-CIO, this morning, talking about some of those great jobs that are non-portable jobs that would stay right here in New Jersey with our offshore wind investment. So these are a lot of the things we're talking about and a lot of the things we're going to address in this infrastructure plan.
You know, let's stay in district for a minute, and this isn't limited to obviously your district, but to a lot of the northeastern states. I showed the polling. It's popular, what President Biden is proposing, but there's a price tag for it, and he says it's high time that the richest, who did particularly well in the last 4 years, pay their fair share. But you've heard the same things that I have, that there's a breaking point where the well-off, not just in New Jersey, but in New York and other of the northeastern states, will just say, too much, I'm out of here, you keep raising taxes on me. You think that's talk, or how worried are you it's reality?
Well, I think that's something we're looking at constantly here in North Jersey. It's an affordability issue. I want to make sure that you can, and this sounds great to us. I know people from other areas don't get it, but you can be born here, you can live your life here, you can raise your kids here, you can retire here, you can die here. I mean, you can live a full, great life in New Jersey, and yet too many of our seniors are finding the burden too high, the affordability issues too high. I've had a retired teacher come up to me and say, with this state and local tax deduction cap, I've got, I'm on a fixed income and I've had a couple thousand more in taxes I had to pay that I can't afford. We look at young people right out of college. I got to tell you, as an ensign in the Navy, I never could have afforded to live in my town. So we do have a real affordability crisis in North Jersey. And again, the state and local tax deduction cap just adds to that tax burden.
As you mentioned, you're a veteran, and when you were on with us before, after the riots, more than just the sadness and the outrage as to what happened, you were clear that this didn't just happen organically. The White House had some culpability, but you even told us before that you had some open-ended questions about even some of your colleagues.
Those members of Congress who had groups coming through the Capitol that I saw on January 5th, a reconnaissance for the next day, those members of Congress that incited this violent crowd.
Where are we right now as we're in April, Congresswoman? Because sure, a 9/11 commission is great to get to the bottom as to what happened on that awful day and what led to it, but I keep thinking back to our conversation. How bizarre must it be to share a Congress with people who potentially aided and abetted one of the worst days in American history? Are you getting answers quick enough as to if some of your colleagues, worse than look the other way, may have given people tours that ended up, storming your offices?
Well, as I've said before, I've spoken to federal investigators. I know they're working very hard on that, but I do have some questions that are still unanswered. I have some concerns. I've read reports that some of the tapes might have been destroyed by the Capitol Police. I'd like to understand that a little bit better, understand a little bit more about the evidence available. And I'll tell you, I've also put forth legislation for a January 6th commission to not only study what happened that day, but the events that led up to that day. I was just with some diverse members of my community who want to know how we've gotten to this point. Why are so many members of our Asian community feeling so under threat? Why do we have these continuing problems that remain unaddressed, problems of racism across this country? We need to get to the bottom of how that was impacted by the events leading up to January 6th, because quite frankly, too many groups across this country are not feeling safe, The diversity of this country, which I've always prized, especially as a New Jerseyan, and knowing how it leads to such an innovative country and economy, is really under threat and attack in too many places in this country.
One of your colleagues we spoke to earlier, Congressman Cohen, he's joined, I believe it's up to 10 other Democratic members in the House that they're attaching a suit against Donald Trump for his role in the January 6th riots, and moreover, some of his comments subsequent to that, which he says the rioters are being persecuted. What role do you think the president had, and do you think it's a good use of time here that the courts investigate his culpability?
I think the President of the United States of America, President Trump, incited a riot against members of Congress, myself included, who were in the Capitol performing our constitutional duty of certifying the election. And what's worse is, as people were attacking the Capitol, as we were being attacked, the president further incited the crowd with his continuing tweets, even against his own vice president. And so I do think that there's a role for the courts. I think there's certainly, though, a role for an investigation into what led to that day.
And finally, there was an interesting pact that's being set up to help moderate Democrats coming up for next year's midterms. Are you comfortable with the direction of the party and the priorities right now? Is it reflective of the broader party, or do you think it's gone too far on the progressive side? I know we're only a few months into the Biden administration, but where the priorities are right now, is it in line with where you are?
Look, if we're talking about priorities like those outlined in the American Rescue Plan, so making sure that our state and local governments are made whole. And again, I've heard from so many of my mayors, including my Republican mayors, about how desperately needed these funds were from the federal government, making sure they're not laying off teachers or cops or having to raise taxes at a horrible time for people in my district. If we're talking about making sure that kids can get back to school this fall at the latest, or making sure that we can get people vaccinated or tested, and making sure that all of America has the ability to move forward and get past the coronavirus, and then if we're going to invest in our nation's crumbling infrastructure and making sure that people have a job at the end of this pandemic and that families have that security, then I think we have the right priorities right now. Those are the priorities I've long held, investing in the people in this country and jobs and our economy and our future. And that's what Joe Biden has been focused on.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Up next, we will stay in Congress, but on a much different subject. A colleague of our last guest, and he's under investigation for sex with a 17-year-old and possible sex trafficking. Colleagues say he has shared nude photos on the House floor, and no one, even in his own party, seems to like the guy. This week, it only went from bad to worse for Matt Gaetz. The latest on his unpardonable behavior next.
Clean up your lawn and garden the smart way with a DR Chipper Shredder. Drop lighter materials into the shredder and the DR will pulverize it into a fine mulch you can use to enrich your soil. Reduce leaves, garden cuttings, sticks and twigs, even big branches, to a fraction of their original volume. The chipper cuts branches up to 5 inches thick into attractive wood chips that are great for landscaping. A DR Chipper Shredder is a complete yard and garden tool that turns your trash into treasure and leaves your property looking great. There's a full line of DR Chippers and Chipper Shredders, including towable and 3-point hitch models.
Go online to drchipper.com to request your free product catalog. All DR Chipper models are on sale and free shipping is in effect. Plus, with our easy financing plan, you can get your DR now and make low monthly payments. Hurry, this offer won't last, so go online today. That's drchipper.com.
Guys, got hair loss? I know what you're thinking. Should I shave my head? Comb it over? Wear a hat? Just stop. This isn't 1970. Keep your hair and your confidence because Bosley, America's #1 hair restoration expert, can give you your real hair back permanently. Check them out today because they're giving away an absolutely free information kit and a free gift card to everyone who texts SHINE to 234-234. Dude, you don't have to look like your dad because this isn't your dad's hair loss treatment. People all over the country trust Bosley because they're ahead of the curve. They use the latest technology to give you your real hair back. And the best part, Bosley's permanent solution is protected by the Bosley Guarantee. Let them show you for free how awesome your hair could look with an absolutely free information kit and a gift card for $250 off. Text SHINE to 234-234. Ask about the Bosley Guarantee. That's SHINE to 234-234.
IRS, open up.
The IRS is the most feared agency in the country and has the power to seize assets, garnish wages, and even put you in jail for back taxes and unfiled tax returns. Don't be a victim. Call Kick IRS right now and let us kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all. Our powerful team of tax experts will fight hard for you and will not stop until we've resolved your tax problems on your terms. And if you qualify, we may even reduce or eliminate your tax debt altogether. No more sleepless nights wondering when the IRS is going to come after you. Take control of your tax problems today and make the phone call. We have an A rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we offer a 100% written guarantee, so there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. The consultation is free and the phone call is free. So pick up the phone right now and kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all.
Call 1-800-719-3527 to get the tax help you need today. Again, that's 1-800-719-3527 or go to kickirstv.com.
The news, well, it just keeps getting worse from embattled Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. Gaetz, he remains under federal investigation. That is, the Justice Department probes whether or not he paid women for sex and if he had a sexual relationship with a minor, a 17-year-old girl, and whether or not he paid for her to travel with him and violated that or other federal sex trafficking laws. Now, remember, that investigation began last year under then Attorney General Bill Barr and then President Trump. And that's significant because this morning, the New York Times reported that Gaetz, he asked Trump for a blanket pardon before Trump left office, pardons for any crime that he may have committed, and it appears Gaetz knew that the investigation was happening when he made such a request. The Gaetz story is now a week old, and one of the most remarkable parts of it is how few Republicans have gone out of their way to go to bat for Gaetz, who reportedly is despised by many, even in his own caucus. So far, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jim Jordan, the only Republicans to have sounded their support for Gaetz. And even this week, Greene began deleting selfies she has with Gaetz from her social media. Now, that's saying something. Listen. Republicans stepping away here from an embattled, unserious member of Congress, you can understand that, but at the same time, you have a president who just went out of his way, President Trump that is, to give at least tepid support, saying that no such request for a pardon was made to him directly. There may be significance with the parsing of the language there, and that to his point, that Gaetz is innocent until proven guilty. And for more, let's bring in our guest, Brittany Shamus. Brittany, she's one of the many Washington Post reporters who is on this beat. She's kind enough to give us a few minutes. And I'm curious, and I want to get to some of the reporting from Florida that you did, but do you find that more people are shocked about the content of these allegations, or shocked, given Gaetz's reputation, that it's taken this long for a scandal to take him down?
You know, it's a good question. I think Matt Gaetz is somebody who has had this reputation of, pulling kind of outlandish stunts. He's somebody who has been in the headlines quite a bit, as you're aware, I'm sure, wearing a gas mask in the early days of the coronavirus pandemic, and different kind of publicity stunts he's pulled. However, this situation has really, swept him up quickly, and more allegations have continued coming out. So I think, it's surprising in a bit how much this has grown.
And you know what's also surprising is there was no attempt, it seems, for any apology tour or to attempt to say, listen, while I don't think what I did was criminal, I can understand how it could be upsetting to folks. In fact, he's fundraising off of this and defending his lifestyle, and I'm putting that in quotes. You go back to Florida and his time in the state legislature there, that seemingly, I don't know of a person that would fight the idea of revenge porn and to criminalize it. And by that, somebody sends a private photo of oneself to a partner. If that partner then takes that and widely distributes it, obviously everybody can figure out how damaging that is and what a violation of privacy or confidence it is. Matt Gaetz went out of his way, per your reporting, to defend the practice and say whoever received the photo, that should be their property to do with as they wish. And he was pretty strident about it.
Yeah, so it's interesting, he was one of only 2 people in the Florida House to vote against this legislation, which was aimed at preventing people from doing this. And the other person was an ally of his, somebody who was his former roommate. So, back at the time that bill was passed in 2015, there were kind of rumors anonymously being made that he was very opposed to this, but the sponsor of the bill, in light of everything that's going on, has now come forward and said, well, actually, yes, he was absolutely against this bill. He felt that if somebody shares an image like this, then the person they give it to, it's theirs to, to use it as they see fit, to do what they want with it.
Maybe I'm getting too old, Brittany, but I have teenage daughters, and the scientific term, I think, is the ick factor to all of this. But the idea that he's, I don't know, showing photos of this on the floor. There's reports, I think, that you guys did, that he proudly put empty condom boxes outside of his office when it was moving day, and that he brags about these exploits and defends them seemingly. It's just, apparently, at least from the folks I know on the Hill, he does not have, forget about many friends, people outright despise him even within his own caucus right now, and that's not a manufactured narrative. People just, they don't want to be in his company, and certainly they don't trust him. I mean, I think it's telling, they didn't even take it seriously, this pardon request he made, even when Trump was going out the door.
Well, as you mentioned, he hasn't had many defenders, back lining up and coming to his defense in this. I think it's also interesting that this legislation that he was fighting in Florida, it had Republican backing. The sponsor of this bill was a Republican. So, he was going against his own party in trying to fight this thing, and apparently fighting it, pretty hard, and to the point where in 2014, it never got out of a committee that he was chairing. So, he was kind of a minority in opposing it.
Do you think him leaving is going to be his own choice? Do you get the sense the drumbeat's building from with his own party? I know McCarthy said they might remove him from committees, as if that would be, suitable, punishment here, even from the ethics side of this. Does he last?
I think it's a really good question. I think he's certainly giving the indication right now that he doesn't want to step down on his own. He hasn't apologized. He's said that this is all a plot against him, that he hasn't done anything illegal. So, I mean, I don't think he's showing signs of wanting to voluntarily step down. So I guess it's just all a matter of what happens, what kind of pressure he faces, what kind of pressure the rest of the party and Congress faces, as far as what happens from here.
I think to be continued is the best way to go for what happens next. Brittany, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, when we come back, we as a nation, we're getting vaccinated and doing so faster than anyone imagined. But the vaccine loses its value if no one knows you've gotten your shot. Still, opposition building to the so-called vaccine passports. We've got the latest on that straight ahead.
Help. When you fall and can't get help.
Help!
you will lie on the floor for hours or days in constant, terrible anguish, which often results in a tragic outcome. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, whether at home,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
in the bathroom,
I've fallen in the shower.
or on the go.
Help! I'm in the park and I can't get up.
And batteries never need charging. Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-215-6582. That's 1-800-215-6582. Call now. 1-800-215-6582.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Mary and Shirley both need oxygen. Shirley lost her freedom the day she went on oxygen, but Mary has the ultra-compact Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator from Inogen. It's the smallest and lightest model we've ever made, so she'll always have the oxygen she needs anytime, anywhere. The sooner you call, the sooner you can reclaim the freedom and independence you deserve. Call now for your 30-day risk-free trial.
Call 800-683-1390. That's 800-683-1390.
By no later than April 19th, in every part of this country, every adult over the age of 18 or older will be eligible to be vaccinated. No more confusing rules.
In just 1 year, we have gone from COVID will magically go away to everyone now eligible for the vaccine. But the question is, should Americans have to prove they've been vaccinated to go back to school, to go back to work, or to just about go anywhere else? That is the essence of the debate we're having right now over the so-called vaccine passports. And as more shots go into more and more arms, that debate, it is heating up. Should you have to prove you've been vaccinated with a so-called vaccine passport? Texas Governor Greg Abbott among those saying no, issuing an executive order prohibiting government-mandated passports.
Government should not require any Texan to show proof of vaccination and reveal private health information just to go about their daily lives.
Florida's governor banned them last week, going a step further and blocking businesses from requiring them, stating they would create 2 classes of citizens based on vaccination. But in New York, they're already rolling out people using a digital app called Excelsior Pass to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. The White House making it clear the government will not mandate these passports on a federal level. But the fight involving private institutions and privacy is just getting started. Brown University, Rutgers, and others requiring on-campus students to get vaccinated by next fall unless they have a medical or religious exemption. That move getting some backlash.
I should not be pressured into taking the vaccine.
And Norwegian Cruise Lines, which hopes to sail in July, announcing a proof of vaccination is essential for all passengers and crew members. Virgin Voyages announcing a similar plan last month.
We think that's the right thing to do to create that safe environment.
And coming up next, the vaccine passport debate. It's picking up partisan momentum. We're going to go under the dome, if you will, here and see where Democrats and Republicans are lining up on this fight. Plus, Mitch McConnell, he all but threatens corporate America when it comes to voting rights and getting involved, saying, shut up unless you're writing a check. Analysis on both of that and more as our friend Rick Klein, ABC News political director, joins us.
shake your legs, shake your abs, shake your butt, shake up your entire body to a slim, firm, and sexy new you with PowerFit Elite, the breakthrough multi-directional vibration platform that helps engage all your muscles from the moment you step on it. PowerFit uses multi-directional vibration to create muscle confusion and rapidly contract and relax your muscles to help you get fit and stay fit.
It's intense. You really feel your whole body working.
You could be watching TV, but you do feel the workout.
It works you out where you don't feel like you're working out. It's actually a lot of fun.
Each traditional exercise that you do on PowerFit Elite can help sculpt, transform, and redefine your body from head to toe. The secret is the multi-directional vibration technology that causes muscle confusion and forces them to contract and counter-challenge you. Your muscles work hard so you can stabilize and maintain your balance. There are 3 standing positions: walking, jogging, and then running. Plus, there are 3 different program levels for workouts to choose from, so you can really customize your workout. PowerFit Elite can help improve your energy, burn calories, tone your body, define your abs, work your arms, strengthen your legs, boost your buttocks, and so much more. And for an even more intense workout, add resistance bands for bicep curls, forward lateral raises, and crisscross pulls. It's time to join the new fitness revolution that's shaking up the world. Call or go online now and you can try PowerFit Elite in your home for 30 days for only $14.95. But wait, order right now and we'll upgrade you to the deluxe set that includes the complete workout guide, the power bands, and the handy remote control. That's an over $80 value free. Try PowerFit Elite in your home for 30 days. And if it's not the best workout system you've used, just return it for a refund of your trial price. But hold everything, we'll also add our healthy eating plan to help you achieve your best possible results free. Try PowerFit Elite in your home for 30 days for only $14.95 and experience the power of extreme vibration. Order now.
Need life insurance? SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife Wendy, a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
Our secret? At SelectQuote, we aggressively comparison shop up to 10 highly rated companies to find you the company with the best rates. Why pay more? Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Welcome back as we now take you inside the Beltway this segment. Now, before the break, we took you through the debate over vaccine passports, which has somehow become a very partisan issue, as the same people fighting for voter IDs to vote now say the vaccine passports would be an invasion of privacy. Then there's voting rights and voting access, and those bills to erode both in Georgia, Texas, and in many other red states across this country. Republicans want the bills on the books, but they also want corporate America to keep cutting them checks. Now, the big companies like Delta, United Airlines, AT&T, Coca-Cola, and of course Major League Baseball, they're voicing their opposition to the Republican voting laws, many seen as restrictive, let alone even discriminatory. And the GOP, the party of big business, they are responding by telling them to basically shut up.
My advice to the corporate CEOs of America is to stay out of politics. Don't pick sides in these big fights.
Pretty strong statement, except less than 24 hours later, McConnell remembered big business, they actually underwrite much of the Republican Party, so his comments went from clam up to this.
I'm not talking about political contributions. Most of them contribute to both sides. They have political action committees. That's fine. It's legal. It's appropriate. I support that.
Oh, I think you follow. Translation, keep writing us checks. Just don't disagree with us. Joining us to discuss those topics and more, ABC News political director Rick Klein. Hey, Rick, everybody knew that Joe Manchin was going to be a big player in the newly constructed Senate, given the 50-50 split. But is this just the new normal? Have you figured out, or has Washington, where his end game is on this? Obviously, infrastructure, the next thing seemingly being held in the balance. Where do you think this goes? Or are we going to go through this kabuki dance every single time there's a big issue?
A 50-50 Senate means every senator can be the deciding vote, and Joe Manchin has made clear that he wants to be. You know, there's a scenario where this is going to be viewed as an impediment to the Biden agenda, clearly him standing in the way of the infrastructure bill, as well as the voting rights reforms and filibuster, blowing up the filibuster, minimum wage. Those are all areas where he's clashing with Biden. But there's another way where negotiating with him is definitely better if you're Joe Biden than negotiating with Mitch McConnell. So you got to keep him in the tent. You got to make sure that the Democrats are happy. And guarding your moderate wing could be a key to political success. So if it means kind of scaling back some of your goals, as the White House is now signaling it might do around higher taxes and around the overall price tag of the infrastructure package, that might be where it lands. I don't think Joe Manchin wants to be known as the guy that sinks the Biden agenda, but he's willing to take those votes, and Joe Biden can't afford to lose him. There's no one else maybe on the planet that as a Democrat could represent West Virginia in the Senate. Biden lost the state by 30-something points. So you're either with Manchin or he's a Republican. Those are your choices, and it means that they're going to have to cut some deals and hear him out fully.
How much is it that folks are playing their parts, or are they each speaking to the camera to get a sense of where the other one is? I ask that because does Biden know probably where he needs to end up, and that there's coordination with him and Manchin, or are they really figuring this out as they go along?
Yeah, I don't think it's as far as to say coordination, but I think the Biden White House realizes that they're going to need to give on some issues and give some victories to the moderate wing of the party because they're not going to get any Republicans. Look, the only thing that's going to save the infrastructure package truly is going to be partisanship, the Democrats sticking together, and there's no reason that Biden isn't going to want to hear Manchin out. I find it really interesting that the first major clash that he's having politically, Biden is clashing with the centrists, with the moderates, as opposed to the left. I would have put my money on big fights with the Squad and AOC before I would have said a fight with Joe Manchin. Biden and Manchin are much more cut from the same cloth than the new and younger progressives in the Democratic Party. So if you're choosing a fight, you might do worse than to have this one. But obviously, it's more significant than that. They've lost already a cabinet nominee to Manchin's objections. They need to hear him out. They need to listen to him. And again, that middle part of the party is actually an important constituency for Joe Biden.
You know, Rick, I think it's fascinating with this voting law debate that we're having in this country off the heels of Georgia and now more states seemingly soon to follow. The role of corporations, and it is such a nuanced play here because you don't want to alienate customers. At the same end, you don't want to tick off folks for looking purely, consumerist. But to that end, I was a little surprised how strident McConnell was with a not-so-veiled threat. Who has the upper hand here? Who's got more really to lose, given that they both need each other?
It's fascinating dynamic because Republicans have been so close to big corporations in the past. For Mitch McConnell to say, hey, stick your nose out of this, and to hear state legislators in Texas say, hey, next time you come calling and need something, Mr. American Airlines or Dell Computers, you may have to knock on someone else's door. I think there's a sense in corporate America that they're calling a bit of a bluff. I don't think the Republicans are really going to retaliate with increased regulations or higher taxes. That said, this is a significant rift, and the voting rights debate is a fundamental one. And these companies now realize that silence isn't an option, that silence is taking a side on highly charged political issues. So to see them get off the sidelines, look, the consequences, I think, become unpredictable. And especially if you start looking at things like the way that this Biden plan would raise corporate taxes, you can imagine how the lobbying arms would react to that. These guys are going to need Republicans, and Republicans are going to need them. And I did think it was interesting in McConnell's comments yesterday. He said, yeah, stick to business, but I'm not talking about political contributions. A very clear signal. He still wants the cash. He just wants them to get their noses out of Senate business.
You know, on the vaccine passports, if there's been one thing that I think people on both sides can agree, this 50 different plans when you're dealing with one pandemic, it has not worked. This is tricky. I get that. There's a lot of things involved, including privacies, et cetera. But how does it work, Rick, when you're talking with transportation, with flights or with cruise ships coming from one port to another? What's required, what's not? Will we ever get a little bit of coherency on this, or are we going to kind of do what we did a year ago, everybody figured it out on their own?
Yeah, and forget 50 states when you talk about literally thousands of private businesses that could potentially put their own restrictions in. State and local governments as well could put their own regulations in place, whatever it takes. And I think that's why you're seeing a little bit of nuance from the White House on this. they are saying they're ruling out the idea of a federal vaccine passport or any kind of a federally run database that acknowledges who does and who does not have a vaccine. They think that's important for patient privacy, for individual privacy. That said, they're promising to put out some guidelines, what they're calling a frequently asked question list, at least, to try to streamline the process where possible. And private industry, any company, a cruise line, an airline, a bus company, they can put in whatever regulations basically they want as a condition of you utilizing that service. Same thing with a restaurant or a sporting event venue, as we've already begun to see. They can require you to wear a mask. They can require you to show certain documentation. So that is going to be a patchwork. I'm interested to see how the Biden White House handles this and how they're able to streamline it, if at all, because you're right, it does become very messy if you have every different company, every different state, every different city or town with its different regulations and different needs for proof of vaccination for services.
Rick Klein, as always, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
We'll be right back, everyone. Please stay with us.
Villains, robbers, bandits, crooks, they're all over your TV screen. But the biggest thieves are behind your screen. I'm talking about the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the cable guy, because now you can watch 4K Ultra HD broadcast TV for free. Introducing Clear TV's new 4K Ultra HD design, the Premium HD. Just plug it into your TV and start watching for free. You will instantly receive top-rated network shows, local news and weather, sporting events, and even Ultra HD 4K broadcast shows, all for free. Thanks to a federal government mandate, all broadcasters are required to transmit a digital TV signal through the airwaves. The new Premium Clear TV lets you bypass cable or satellite to bring network and 4K broadcast shows directly to your television. Retract the antenna to keep it small or extend them for maximum reception.
Setup was so easy. I took my Clear TV antenna, plugged it into the back of the TV, and now I can watch my favorite broadcast channels anywhere in the house for free.
We're just off the coast here in the Gulf of Mexico receiving free network broadcast HD TV. Imagine all the free shows you'll receive at home.
Basic cable and satellite services can cost you up to $80 a month. That's $960 a year and almost $10,000 over a 10-year period. Watch TV in as many rooms as you like with no additional monthly fees. Stop spending money you don't have to spend. Call or go online now and get your premium Clear TV 4K Ultra HD antenna for only $19.95. It's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Order now and you can add a second Clear TV free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's a $40 value for only $19.95.
I can't believe I get all these channels for free. Plus 4K Ultra HD, Clear TV is for real.
8 years ago, my daughter called to say she was expecting our first grandchild, but I never heard her say it. So a few years ago, Gina bought me a Nano hearing aid. And now I love hearing Ryan call me Papa. And at only $297 for a full pair, they make a great gift for someone you know. Plus, call now and order one hearing aid, and Nano will give you a second absolutely free.
Call 1-800-238-2857.
Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. Tomorrow, programming note, Congresswoman Meng, Democrat from New York, who has personally experienced anti-Asian bias. She'll join us for an emotional conversation as to where we are at this point in this country. That and much more tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. right here on RFL Eastern Time. Again, that's Thursday, right here on Richard French Live. I'll see you then.
Are you over the age of